Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, and welcome to the OBX Wave Report, where we discuss all things waves, weather, climate, and beach lifestyle. And for this particular episode of the OBX Wave Report, I am going to give you guys a bit of a full account on the wave conditions that I experienced both yesterday and the wave conditions today. And this is a video of my observation at Jeanette's Pier yesterday, where fog had inundated the pier and the near coastal regions. And what's happening right now is we have some cooler air over the Labrador current that's coming down from the north. And this cooler air is encountering some warmer, moist air that is in the southern regions, seeping up over the Gulf Stream and moving up over portions of the U.S. Southeast. And when the cool air encounters the warm, moist air at the surface, you can get fog. And what was happening is we had a northeast wind that was blowing in over the Labrador Current, pushing in that cooler air that was then slamming into the moist air. And so we had fog at Jeanette's Pier, and this bank of fog moved down from the north and from the east and blanketed a big section of the Outer Banks all the way down to just south, I would say, of Rodanth, maybe getting down to Waves, possibly by later in the afternoon, getting down to north of Avon. Um, I saw no surfers in the water at Jeanette's Pier yesterday, so and I didn't see much in the way of good waves there either. So I decided to grab my surfboard and my GoPro and head on down south in search of better waves and, quite frankly, warmer waters. And so that's what we did. And let me show you another video from my surfboard yesterday. Here we go. So I got a great paddle out on my Lost Rocket Redux that I'm showing here, but just look at the difference in conditions here at Avon. You can see the fog to the north, that thin band of gray on the horizon, but just look at these beautiful waves. This is about, I don't know, maybe 35, 40 miles to the south, and just gorgeous conditions. Ocean water temperature is about 10 degrees warmer. I got into the water. It felt cold for a second, but then once I got in, it was just like no big deal. Um, but I did upload this video not just to show you guys the observations from yesterday, but also to demonstrate the paddle power of the Lost Rocket Redux in the quad configuration. I haven't had a good experience with a Lost Rocket Redux in the thruster configuration. I think that the fins, at least with the large fins, I had large FCS Shaper Performer fins, and those were too sticky. They were like a brick in the back of the board. But once I shifted to the quad configuration, it was just like, I mean, like a literal rocket. It felt like the board had wings. And great grip as well, great turning on the face of the waves. My skill and ability in the past was much higher than it is now. I have a lot of memory, like analytical memory of what to do as far as, as experienced surf or, advanced surfing. But my muscle memory isn't quite back to where it was. It's getting back, but my paddle memory though is coming back really quick. And with the Lost Rocket, it's really helping me out. And as you can see with this just paddle out, I mean, I just waited in between sets. I wasn't sure if I was going to make it in between sets without having to do a duck dive, but it just like whoosh. It just, yeah, just paddled right out. No big deal. Just, hey, I'm here. So just a really fun board. But also you can just see the conditions. You can see the, oh, sorry, here, let's stop this. And And then we'll go to my next video here, which is of a wipeout. And let's go ahead and stop this. Um, but I'll get back to my videos here. But what I did want to say, actually, no, let me show you the wipeout first, and then I'll talk about conditions more. So, so I did do this thing where I wanted to show you a wave that I caught yesterday. And I almost made a barrel just, oops, sorry, here we go. So paddling into the wave here, getting the line up right. I was kind of pointing with my hand down the line, trying to set the rail and didn't quite get it, and then boom, just went head over heels in the barrel, but almost got the rail, almost got the turn, almost got a beautiful barrel there at Avon yesterday. And one of these days I'll get it once I get my muscle memory back up. But I did want to show you that barrel. There were beautiful barrels at Avon all day yesterday. The waves there are, they're fast. You've got to really be on your toes. You got to nail your pop ups. You got to get your board position right. You got to set your rail in order to get in the right position for those waves, or otherwise they'll just totally spill you. And I did want to show you the shot I got from inside the barrel as I took a spill and my board got sucked up over the falls there. Just a classic Outer Banks barrel. So, um, all right, so let's get into some conditions for today. Right now, so yesterday the wave conditions were mixed. They weren't really great in some places and they were good in others, but now waves are just fantastic across the Outer Banks. We've got well-formed 3 to 7 foot surf all up and down the Outer Banks on the east-facing beaches as a swell comes in from the east and from the northeast. And I want to show you the weather picture. So the satellite picture right now, we've got a storm that moved off the U.S. East Coast, helped to push a swell toward the East Coast. And here also in the Outer Banks, the winds have shifted toward the east. We've got some east-northeast winds and some east-southeast winds coming in off the ocean, and that's helping to blow in that large swell that's just offshore. And so we're getting some fantastic conditions just offshore here in the Outer Banks. Weather conditions across the lower 48 right now, we've got warm, moist air over the U.S. southeast, and we've got another storm system moving over the Rockies, and this storm is going to trigger severe weather for the Mississippi River Valley and regions surrounding it, particularly over the next day or two over Thursday and Friday. So some severe weather on the way for the southeast. And then out west, it looks like there might be a little bit of a respite before the next storm system comes into the west. But nonetheless, a large trough digging in the west. And unfortunately, it looks like this trough over the next 2 weeks is expected to shift to encompass most of the United States. So not great weather expected as we get into the second week of March. Hopefully, it won't be too cold here in the Outer Banks. I want to keep surfing. Surfing is fun. In any case, let's look at the National Weather Service radar, and we can see the storms firing up over parts of Texas, Oklahoma, getting into Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana. You can see the unstable air mass out here over the Rockies producing some winter weather. We've still got some winter storm advisories and blizzard warnings up for parts of California, and small craft advisory and gale warnings up across the U.S. West Coast. We do have some small craft advisories with those large waves coming in from the east as well for the U.S. East Coast. And then looking at the quantitative precipitation forecast, we get an idea where the storms are going to tend to form over the next week. And it looks like the hot spots are the Mississippi and Ohio River valleys yet again, and the U.S. West Coast yet again, with some tendency for nor'easter formation off the U.S. East Coast. All right, getting down to the beaches. I do want to talk to you guys about where the waves are good and where it's fun and where it's going off. It is worth noting that For today, the waves are expected to be the best. For the next 3 days, the waves are expected to slowly tamp down over the course of today and into Thursday, and then remain pretty good into like early to mid Friday. But then by the time Friday advances, we're going to get some stronger winds that will tend to confuse or break up the swell. But then by Sunday again, looks like the waves are expected to get good. So looks like 3 out of the next 4 days are expected to be good for the waves. But in any case, today looks like probably the best day. As far as waves go across the Outer Banks. And I'm going to actually start, I'm going to change it up for my reporting. We're going to start at Avon because I surfed on it. I surfed at Avon yesterday. And right now at Avon, the waves are in the range of 3 to 5 feet. So they're a little bit, I believe, a little bit taller than they were yesterday. I think the waves were about 2 to 4 feet when I was out there surfing. It might have been a little bit larger. I mean, it's kind of hard to tell. But just beautiful, fantastic waves there at Avon yesterday and right now. Primary swell coming in at 9 seconds, secondary swell at 7 seconds. Avon's got some fantastic barrels at the pier there, so just a great spot. Winds out of the east-southeast at 14 miles per hour. That's an onshore flow. Air temperatures right now 59 degrees Fahrenheit. Ocean water temperature 62 degrees Fahrenheit. And I will say that in my hood, booties, gloves, 2 3 millimeter wetsuit, which is falling apart. um, I've got I was completely warm yesterday. It was happy, joyful. I mean, I got in the water for a second, and it was cold, but then once I got used to it, it was. I mean, I was completely comfortable. Weather conditions today expected to be partly cloudy with a high of 66. Rain predicted for Thursday and Friday. And I'm going to go south first before I head north. I want to talk about Buxton right now. Buxton is competing to be the big wave spot today, but there's another spot I think further north that is beating it out. Right now, Buxton's official wave heights are in the range of 6 to 7 feet. It's probably beautiful down there at Buxton as well with some nice barrels. Primary swell at 5.5 feet coming in at 8 seconds. Secondary swell coming in at 13 seconds. The onshore indicator shows 6 to 7 foot waves breaking on the sandbars out there. The near offshore swell is 5.5, so the swells must be lining up very well to pump those waves up to 6 to 7 feet. Not certain if they're quite that big, but they may be. Buxton is a fantastic beach in any case. Winds coming out of the east-southeast at 13 miles per hour. Air temperatures right now in the range of 61 degrees Fahrenheit. Ocean water temperature is much warmer at 64. Partly cloudy today with a high of 67. Rain predicted Thursday and Friday. So let's head on north and get some observations for the northern beaches. And up here at Jeanette's Pier right now, waves are in the range of 3 to 5 feet with a primary swell coming in at 8 seconds, secondary swell at 13. Seems to be the case for like 8 second primary, 8 to 9 second primary swell for most beaches right now. Winds out of the east-northeast at 13 miles per hour. That's onshore. Blowing over those cold Labrador current waters, we might be having some more fog down there today. We'll have to see. Just looking out the window, it looks a little cloudy in that direction, so there might be some fog lingering. I looked at some of the cams earlier, and it looked like there was still some fog down there at Jeanette's. Air temperature is cooler at 53 degrees. Sounds pretty cold when you compare it to those temperatures down south. Ocean water temperatures 53 degrees as well, and also considerably colder than the beaches down south. You're gonna really want your full suits and your hoods and your gloves and boots and all the stuff, all your cold weather gear there at Jeanette's Pier today. Conditions right now are cloudy. This is what we're getting from the observations. I'm thinking maybe foggy, cloudy. We'll see. We'll get down there. High today, expected high today of 60. If it is foggy, temperatures might not quite make it to the 60-degree mark. We'll see. And then, as with most locations, rain is expected Thursday and Friday. And I do want to go a little bit further to the north here to Bathhouse in Nag's Head, and I'm approximating where Bathhouse is on the map. But right now, it seems like Bathhouse may be the big wave spot for the Outer Banks, with 6 to 7 foot waves breaking at Bathhouse now, and a slightly larger indicated swell than Buxton. So I just did want to throw that in as a note for you guys. All right, so let's look at the longer term forecast to get an idea what the weather and temperature, particularly temperature and storm conditions, are going to be like over the next 8 to 14 days. And I don't really like the look of this coming in from the Climate Prediction Center. It looks like it's going to be cold across most of the US, colder than normal across most of the US into the second week of March. So it does look like we're going to get more of a trough digging in across a larger section of the country, the trough digging in from the northwest and pointing down toward the southeast, pushing warmer temperatures down further south. Now, this trough is in front of a huge high pressure system that's been sitting over the Pacific now for days and days and weeks and weeks. And this big old high is circulating in a clockwise fashion, and on its left hand side, it's bringing this massive amount of heat on up into the Arctic. And it's helping to smash up the cold in the Arctic and then push it down toward the south, particularly on the front side of this high. And here in the US, over the past couple of weeks, we've been seeing that cold and stormy air come down for the US West Coast. Now, looks like that high might expand its influence, its front face influence, and the trough influence further eastward. So we might see a big trough in the jet stream covering most of the United States in the 8 to 14 day time period. And not only are we looking at colder than normal conditions, but for most of the United States, we're looking at stormier than normal conditions as well. So we're going to have to keep an eye on this. Hopefully, it won't be cold and unpleasant. But one other thing to think about as this trough digs in is whether or not we're going to get some nor'easters out here in the Atlantic as the trough dips deeper, and that would tend to form the nor'easters here to the south and east rather than to the north and east. And so we'll just have to keep an eye on things to see if we get any nor'easters swooping in as that trough digs on deeper. All right, looking more to the near term, we do look at severe weather here at the OBX wave report, and it does look like the convective outlook for today, tomorrow, and Friday is looking relatively eventful, with some enhanced risk for severe thunderstorms over parts of the Mississippi today, some moderate risk for severe storms in mostly the same region, although shifting back a little bit more toward Texas tomorrow, and then some risk, some slight risk for the U.S. Southeast for severe storms on Friday, and that does get a little bit into the Outer Banks region, so we'll have to keep an eye on that as well. So some risk for big boomers for the Southeast over the next few days, and getting closer to the Outer Banks as we get into Friday. Now, I did talk about the severe weather, so let's look at the components. We've got that warm, moist air over the Southeast. We got that cold, unstable air coming in over the Rockies, and they're going to join up again and possibly, shoot off some powerful storms. And right now we've got some extra ingredients in the system. The ocean water temperatures are much warmer than normal across the Gulf and across the Atlantic Ocean. This is a climate crisis fingerprint where we have seen the ocean surfaces warm up quite a lot and help to provide more moisture for storms that do sweep in from the north and west. So that's just something to add to our weather picture as we go forward. Okay, now advancing this model into Thursday, we do see a series of storms fire up along a frontal boundary as a strong low pressure swoops out of the Rockies and the moisture from the south starts to interact with the cold, unstable air to the north. And advancing this model, we've got the storms firing off as well on Thursday with we got a very large frontal boundary sweeping from the Outer Banks all the way back to Arizona and New Mexico. And then along the front by Friday, a strong low pressure forms, quickly strengthens down to a 976-ish millibar system by evening time on Friday. And then as the storm sweeps on through, we've got severe weather for the southeast, and this moving on toward the north looks like maybe a rather intense snow event for the US Northeast as the front sweeps across the US Southeast late Friday into Saturday, and heads on offshore on the day on Saturday. And then behind it, we've got some clearing. And by Sunday and Monday, it looks like we've got the potential for some good wave conditions as winds change to the north and east, or shift to the north and east. All right, so let's get down to the wave models for the Outer Banks. And looking at the near offshore environment now, we've got significant wave heights in the range of 6 to 7 feet. We've got the swell coming in from the east and northeast, a beautiful swell right now, and this is expected to persist throughout the day. And then as we get into the day tomorrow, swell is expected to persist through Thursday. And we've got just a nice swell in the 5 to 6 foot range offshore on Thursday. And then as we get into Friday, swell falls down a little bit to the looks like 4 to 5 foot range in the near offshore environment as a zoom in here. So 3 days of great swells, particularly for the, 3 days. So if you're today, tomorrow, and then up into the midday on Friday. And then by Saturday, we've got the swell shifting around to the south and with strong winds ahead of that front. So some of the south-facing beaches might get pretty gnarly, although pretty choppy as well. And then as we get into the day on Sunday, the swell turns back around and gets a lot better with significant wave heights in the range of 5 feet. So 3 out of the next 4 days, 4 out of the next 5 days look really good for waves. So thank you for joining me for this session of the OBX Wave Report. And as I always do, I encourage you to please do your best to support the transition to clean energy, that being wind, water, solar, electric vehicles, and by doing that to defend our beautiful coastlines from the impacts of climate change, which are driven by fossil fuel burning. We'll be back to